Hello, welcome back to the 80s Toy Museum, and this is a piece that I wish had been released back in the 80s. We first heard about this a couple of months ago. They redid the old Afterlife Plasma Ecto-1, and they've refurbished it, redone it as the 1984 Ecto-1 from the original Ghostbusters movie, and that was very exciting, especially since they also announced that they were going to be doing O-ring Ghostbusters. I almost said O-ring G.I. Joes. O-ring Ghostbusters. So when you do O-rings, obviously G.I. Joes are going to come to mind, and I think it's fair to have some of the same expectations. So I've got a couple of Ectos. I've got the Kenner, Real Ghostbusters Ecto, got a Playmobil Ecto-1A, which was awesome. I did a build video on that a while back, and I don't really need another Ecto, but they got me with the O-ring figures. So what I thought was kind of weird was that this Ecto was going to be available far ahead of time from the figures. I figured they'd all be released at the same time, but no, this comes out like a year before the figures. So that's cool, just grab one and wait for the figures. Well, just want to give a little bit of a warning for people who are very excited about like almost a G.I. Joe crossover with Ghostbusters, that the Afterlife 1/18 scale Ecto that came out a few years ago, apparently it couldn't fit figures very well. This one was supposed to have been a little modified to fit figures better. And unfortunately, it's really, really tight, really difficult to get them in the back seat. So that's mainly what I want to cover today. But since I don't want it just to be a complete complain fest here, I do want to point out one of my favorite parts of this particular Ecto is that they've got the gurney in the back. So when the figures are released, you'll be able to put their proton packs on the gurney. And this is really cool too, the way these pop up and you can actually push the gurney around. It's got working wheels. Don't know if the proton packs will fit. I'm thinking if you put them on their side, they should fit. I don't think they'll fit standing straight up, but still, that's a really cool feature there. And the doors on the Ecto are really cool too. You can see that this actually pulls out, and then when you close it, it pushes in. So that's nice. Good hinges on the front door too. It's just a little difficult to get them open, and you see this is a cool little joint there too for the door. Because there's windows on all the doors, it is a little difficult to get them open. Usually you just poke your finger through the window and pull it open, but can't do that in this case. So you have to go at this little rounded edge. Get your fingernail, if you've got any, in there and pull it open like that. Also, having this now in hand, before I got it, I wished there were electronics. Now that I have it in hand, I really wish there were electronics. It looks fine, but electronics and sounds are such a huge part of the real Ecto-1 vehicle that it just seems like a really wasted opportunity to not have some buttons like the Playmobil one did, to have these all light up. Like, why not? They're sitting right there, and it's really, really glaring that you've got this clear blue plastic here that doesn't light up. So there'll probably be fan upgrades for that, but I think it just should have been included. Okay, to give you an idea of just how bad this is for fitting O-ring figures into here, I've got Clutch, who's, most of the O-ring Joes are about the same size, and then I've got this Lady J, who is just a little bit shorter than this Clutch figure. And the Lady J seems to fit a little bit better. It's a comic pack Lady J. So I don't know if the O-ring Ghostbusters are going to be a little bit smaller. I hope they actually do shrink the O-ring Ghostbusters down a little so they'll fit a little better. But let's try a standard G.I. Joe, because some people might not get the figures. They might just want an Ecto and get their put their G.I. Joes in there. So one of the main issues with getting a figure in the front here is the steering wheel. Could be an issue. Apparently it's been reworked a little bit from the Afterlife version to allow for just a little bit more room. Let's see if we can get him in here. It's not too bad, but the seat does make him feel like he's riding a little high. That's not too bad, actually. It's always tricky shooting interior, so here's a flashlight. That looks great. So, front seat, not really much of a problem. Let's get Lady J in the other seat. Easily. No problems whatsoever. Close the doors. No problems there. Sometimes that's an issue where closing the door, there's not enough room. There's not enough room. What's going on here? Oh, there we go. Fantastic, right? You can see there's even more head clearance for the shorter Lady J figure in there. Works great. Now we move on to the back seat. Get our clutch figure all bent up and see what's going on here. The seat's too high. Both that way as well as the other way. So not enough head clearance in the back. You can get him kind of sideways, like I've got him right now. Not good. And that's just one figure. Let's pull him out, and Lady J is a little shorter, so it's a little easier for her, but the major issue here is that these two seats are so close together. Don't know why you would design them that way. If it was meant to hold figures, I'm thinking this wasn't meant to hold figures, and the O-rings were just an afterthought to try to spike a few extra sales. But this was not designed to hold figures. These two seats, there's just not enough room. The figures would have to sit like this in order for that to even work. Like their knees would have to be like that, if you could even get them in there. You can squeeze this shorter Lady J figure in here. Oh, this is going to be a good example right here. So she fits in there okay, but you see how her head is? Like, doesn't look good. And then look where her feet are in relation to the other seat. It's hard to light, but you see there's no room for another figure in there. It's too bad. It is possible. I was able to do this. I was talking to a friend a few days ago, and we were both talking about how weird this design choice was. And I was able to get both of them seated in there, but one of them had to be really shoved to the side, and just for the sake of time, squish, they're in there. Look how look how bad that looks. They're in there. Okay, so a kid's not going to care. Like, if you're a parent, you buy this for your kid, they're not going to care. They're in there. That's all that's important. But if you're an adult and you at least want them to be able to sit like they used to in troop carriers back in the day, you're going to have to probably do a little bit of customizing. I was taking a look in here and trying to see if, ideally, if these seats were removable, that would be the best. And they might be. I haven't tried to just rip this right out. I'm hoping another customizer might take a crack at it. And then I also took a look at the back here, and it looks like, yeah, that black seat, this one right here, if you could tear that out, then there would be a little like a little edge for a figure to sit on in there. So just even tearing one seat, this back seat out, might make a big difference. But for what this thing costs, it's pretty crappy that you have to go to that effort to customize a brand new toy that should have been designed with that in mind anyway. Other than that, other stuff on the thing is good. It's nice that this is that kind of bendy rubbery material. These antennae won't break. There's 2 of them on there. And some of the stuff on the top does come in a baggie, so that was kind of cool. Kind of reminded me of the old days of when you put together a vamp or an Ostriker type of thing. These things all pop off. This whole thing comes off. And to finish up, a couple of size comparisons. I don't have a 1/18 scale die-cast Ecto-1, so I don't know how it compares to one of those. But here it is with that Playmobil Ecto that I mentioned earlier. And the Playmobil Ecto is just ever so slightly shorter. So I've got them lined up at the back right here. These 2 things lined up. And that's how much longer I keep wanting to call it the G.I. Joe Ecto, the 84 plasma Ecto. So even though it's a little bit smaller and G.I. Joe O-rings can't fit in this Ecto has the lights, which makes such a huge difference, and the sounds as well. And last comparison is with an Ecto-1 from Kenner Real Ghostbusters. It's got a custom top to it from Charlie's Custom Toy Shop. A little bit wider. It's just about the same length, actually. Yeah, they look like they're exactly the same length. There they are, lined up at the back, lined up at the front. The Kenner one is a little taller. The figures were a little taller than G.I. Joe's too. About 4.5 or 5 inches. And got the classic Ghostbusters in there, the 84 Ghostbusters. So a lot more detail on the Plasma Ecto. It's meant to be a little more of a realistic representation than the old Kenner cartoon one. But I think if you're going to do a 1/18 scale toy Ecto that's meant to interact with action figures, then it's got to be a lot more play-friendly if it's going to be missing details. Because otherwise you can just get one of the 1/18 scale amazing die-cast models that have even more detail. I think some of them might have lights on them as well. And so what if they don't fit the figures? This doesn't really either, other than the front 2 seats. So yeah, the lack of detail, the more toy look to it would be a lot more forgivable. Just if that back seat could hold those figures a little bit better, and if the roof had some actual electronic lights and sounds play features on it. Watch them do a different version of this next year. Watch them retool this so that it'll fit the figures better, have lights and sounds. I wouldn't at all be surprised if they did that. Super 7 has been doing that a lot lately with their Thundercats figures. They release one version, and then they'll release the LJN toy version. And then they just announced they're doing Lion-O and Mum-Ra with light-up eyes. And it's just a lot of fans going, oh, I should have waited. So, yeah, with this one, I'm wondering if I should have waited. Because I wouldn't be surprised if they do another version of this that's a little more tailor-made for the O-ring figures, which was the whole point for me. I just wanted the O-ring figures and a vehicle to go with them. So, yeah, there's your warning. It's still pretty cool, but temper your expectations, especially if it's all about the figures for you. It's not perfect for the figures, but if you're just going to display them standing out in front of them, then yeah, it's perfectly fine little display background for them. But then again, so is all of the 1/18 scale models that have been done over the years, if not better. More detail on them, die cast metal. This is all plastic, so why not get a 1/18 scale model if you're just gonna have the figures stand in front of it. But yeah, if you're a futzer, if you like to put them in and take them out, it's pretty disappointing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, Nerdmas Day.